Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and if there's one thing I can guarantee you is that at some point the market is going to crash. And I know everyone says this on YouTube and it sounds very smart, but in reality, we all know at some point it's going to crash. And we saw that happen back in March of 2020 when the pandemic first started. But the main thing people forget is that while people lose money, while the market crashes, some people make a lot of money. And that's what I want to make sure you do when the next one actually happens, because I made money then. Remember, in order for someone to sell in the stock market, someone has to buy. So when someone loses money, someone is at the other end of that trade potentially making money. And that's the goal for this video. And you know, there's one story I want to share with you guys that's personal, private, illegal, so I can't give you all the details, but I can say when I was 4 years old, my uncle, he got a supermarket burnt down, lost all the merchandise, and no, he did not have insurance. Now, in the end, my dad's in politics, insurance got there some way, somehow, can't give you all the details here, but I remember this very powerful quote, and I have no idea how I heard this at 4 years old, and it was, Tommy, everyone wants insurance when the fire happens, but no one wants insurance before the fire actually happens, because basically they don't want to pay for it. So the goal with this video is to prepare you before the actual event happens. So when it happens, you're not caught skinny dipping with no money and you're like just struggling and don't know what to do. And remember guys, in this YouTube world, I'm not the flashy guy, I'm the boring investor. I do what works and it makes me money, and that's all I care about. I don't want to be overly complex, and my ideas usually a 5-year-old can understand it, and that's on purpose. So as you watch this video, if it sounds simple, the goal is to make it as simple as possible. Step by step, what do I invest into? How do I invest? How often do I invest? And why do I invest this way? I'll tell you everything in this video. Now, as always, guys, smash the like button, and on top of that, comment down below exactly what is your investing goal for 2022. How much do you actually want to have invested at the end of this year? Comment down below and let me know. And if you don't know, find out and then comment down below, because what's the goal of investing or the point of investing if you don't even have a goal in mind? So comment down below and let me know. Now, the first lesson I want to share with you guys is this. You have to invest with the purpose of staying in the game for a very long time. Not invest to make a lot of money quickly by taking a lot of risks. And there's only 3 factors that makes a good investor, and that's time, patience, and lastly, compound interest. And the billionaire Charlie Munger, he always says, when it comes to compound interest, there's just one rule, and that's don't interrupt it unnecessarily. So as long as you do this, you're patient, you have time, and you allow compound interest to do what it's going to do, you're going to be a good investor if you pick the right investments. And good investors, guess what? They also get very, very rich. Investing as a whole is the only career / world / thing people can actually be good at, not great at, and still do as good as the great people actually do. It's amazing, okay? You couldn't do that with a doctor, a good doctor versus a great doctor. I'd rather go to the great doctor all the time. But a good investor can make a good return and make a few $1 million. And that's really what everyone can actually do. Now, I want to give you guys this very real example, because the point is you want time in the game. You don't want to get rich quickly, although we all do, like, let's be honest, but the risks, they're just too high. And when you take this sort of risk, the risk is that if things don't go your way, you get blown out, meaning you have to start all the way over, and that's not what you want. So here are 2 individuals, and I want you to kind of guess which one each one actually is. So you have one, which is Ronald, a philanthropist. And by the way, a philanthropist is someone that gives away money and does all that charity stuff, if you didn't know what it was. And also Jesse. Jesse was actually an investment trader, okay? Now, guess who and what features kind of fit each person here. First, one of these guys made $100 million during Black Monday. That's when the market actually crashed back in the days, in the 90s, well, in the 1900s or so, right? And he made over $100 million because basically he shorted the market. So is that Ronald or is that Jesse? Take a guess, okay? And then, second thing, one went bankrupt 3 times and also had 3 different wives for each bankruptcy, basically. On top of that, one died with $8 million. One actually took away his own life, unfortunately. One donated most of his money at the end of his life. That's obvious, right? That's a philanthropist. Okay, we can all guess that one right there. One bought a 2-bedroom home and never moved again. One basically had to carpool to work because he didn't have a car. And one also graduated high school but never did anything else. And lastly, one bought over 95 stocks. And you might be wondering, well, Tommy, philanthropist or investment trader? Which one died with 8 million? Which one made 100 million? You know, it's hard to tell, but I'll give you a clue. The philanthropist only became a philanthropist after passing away. Because in his life, when he was actually alive, he was actually just a janitor. And his full name is actually Ronald Reed. And guess what? He passed away with $8 million, married to the same exact woman, bought the 2-bedroom home and stayed there like forever. He had 95 stocks and he owned basically forever. He just kept investing and investing and investing and stayed there for the long term. But the trader, the smart person, he's the guy that took his own life, unfortunately, that made the $100 million, that went bankrupt 3 times, that things did not go that well for him. And you know why? Because his plan was so precise and so complex that whenever anything actually went wrong, things really went wrong. And the key to Ronald Reed's, the janitor that had no car and carpooled to work every single day, his only secret was basically time, patience, and compound interest. That's all he did. And that's the amazing thing about investing. You can have basically a professional. You can have just an average janitor individual, does not make that much money at all, and he goes ahead and has $8 million while the other person can go bankrupt. That's the crazy thing about this game. And that's why I say the game you want to play is a long-term game. You don't want to play quick and fast, where the consequences basically you get wiped out every time things don't go your way. That's not what you want. So the next lesson is, guys, well, Tommy, what do I need to do to play this game the right way? Well, first of all, you need to understand 3 things. And the first thing is, wealth is often what you don't see. And that means, for example, when you look at someone, you see them in a Porsche or a Lamborghini, a fancy house, fancy wife, first-class tickets, you say, wow, they must be wealthy. But those are all the little things that put into your face to show you, hey, I spend a lot of money, or I might make a lot of money, but wealth-wise, net worth-wise, they might not have anything. So the person you see, the janitor, like Ronald Reed, that doesn't take first-class tickets, that doesn't have a fancy home, doesn't have a trophy wife, doesn't have a fancy car, didn't even have a car or a fancy job. The things you did not see was the massive portfolio building up on the side by him just being dedicated, being patient, and letting compound interest do what it do. On top of that, you need to have a plan that doesn't need to go according to plan. We call this a margin of safety or room for error. You gotta have a plan that if things don't go your way, you still win. Because most likely, things are not gonna go your way. Especially me or you, we don't know what's gonna happen. No one could predict, for example, the pandemic actually happened, market going down like 30-50%. No one saw that coming. You can't predict everything. So you have to have a plan that when things like that happen, you're still going to be okay. And I'll teach you how to do that in this video. Don't worry. The last thing is you need to understand tail events. Okay? You can be an investor and invest for 10 years and not see that many changes in your portfolio. But as time passes, you will have events that are going to balloon your investment further and further and further. That's why the game we play is time in the market, not trying to time the market. Now, for me personally, guys, okay, I invest into just five ETFs slash index funds, and that's it. And I call that diversification. On top of that, how often and how much do I invest? I invest 20% of my income every time I get paid. And for me, that's every single week. I invest the same 20% of my paycheck. That's what I do. And lastly, the app I use is called M1 Finance, and I use it to automate my investments and also to rebalance my portfolio automatically. And by the way, all this means is, Tommy, you're doing three things. All I do is basically, I diversify, I dollar cost average, which means I invest the same amount at the same time every single time. And lastly, I also rebalance, which basically means I keep the allocation the same, so that way I don't carry that many risks when it comes to the other parts of my portfolio or my investments. Now, I want to show you personally exactly what I invest into via my phone right here. So I'm going to pop it up right here, guys, okay? Now, right here, this is my phone. So if I swipe left, right, it's my phone. Now, my allocation for investments right here, my holdings, I, again, only invest into 5 different investments, okay? You have the S&P 500, VOO, you have VB, VEA, VWO, and lastly, VNQ. That's all I invest into. And again, I am the boring investor. That's what I do. I invest in what works, and I keep doing it for a very long time. And I plan doing this for the next 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, potentially, if I actually live that long. But that's the idea. And as far as Tommy, well, how much do you invest into each and every single one? I have a link down below to M1 Finance. When you click it, it shows you exactly my allocations. If you want to copy it, you can if you want to. But this way, I'm invested into the large companies here in the US, into the small companies here in the US also, into the large companies outside of the US, into the real estate market, and lastly, into emerging markets. This way, I'm diversified. I invest the same amount every single week, and on top of that, it keeps the exact balance I actually want to keep. So if I go over here and you want to screenshot it very quickly, guys, my allocation is very simple. I put 40% into the US large cap, I put 20% into the small cap, 20% into developed markets, 10% into the emerging markets, and then 10% into the REITs. That's what I do, and that's what I want to keep, okay? That's about it, okay? Fairly simple, straightforward, nothing complicated here. Boring investing all the way. Now, lesson 3 is, well, Tommy, how do I take this and apply it for myself? Well, I'll show you exactly how to project this stuff into the future, and also how to calculate how much money is going to be enough money. And I love this story by John C. Bogle, the guy that created the whole index fund over at Vanguard. This guy was amazing. I read his book. He saved my life when it comes to investing in a lot of ways, okay? But the idea is, guys, the story goes like this. There's an author. His name is Joseph, I think, and he wrote the famous book called Catch-22. I never read it. It's a novel. I rarely ever read novels. But he gets invited to this billionaire party, okay? And when he arrives there, they tell him, do you know that the guy that's throwing this party, he made more money than your book did forever? And by the way, his book, Joseph's book, sold around 10 million copies. And one day, the billionaire trader made more money than that book did in the lifetime of the book. And Joseph pauses and says, but I have something that he never will. And when they ask him what, he says, I have enough. Because, guys, the story here is, if you don't know how much money is going to be enough money, this game is never going to end. And the things you're going to do to acquire more and more money are going to be more and more ridiculous, and more often a lot more risky. So it's important that you know exactly what your number actually is. So now, let me show you how you calculate your personal number, because again, everyone is different, okay? So what you want to do is, you want to find out exactly how much money you spend every single month. That means on shelter, utilities, groceries, and transportation, but calculate that into the future, okay? So how much money do I think I'm going to be spending when I'm actually financially free? Well, I like to use my real current numbers right now, and project into the future, maybe when I have kids and wife or whatever. But for right now, let's use my current numbers, okay? What you want to do is, for me, guess what? I only spend around $2,000 every single month, okay? Once you know your monthly expenses, multiply it by 12. That gives you the annual. Every single year, I spend $24,000. That's the idea. And then I want you to multiply this by 1.2. Why? Because this means that basically, I want you to have a margin of safety of 20%. Just saying, well, I think I spend X, but let me just add an extra 20% just in case I spend more or something else comes around, okay? So equals, that means I actually spent around $28,800. Once you have this number, I want you to multiply it by 25. And this tells you exactly how big your portfolio needs to be. For me, it's $720,000. This is how much money I need to have in my portfolio to have enough. And this is also my margin of safety of 20%. So if I even have 20% less of this, I'm still going to be fine because my expenses are actually a lot lower. Now, how much do I invest to get to this goal? Well, the answer is simple. For me, I invest 20% of my income. Now, let's say I make $48,000 a year. What's 20% of this? Well, multiply it by 0.2, and that gives me $9,600 I'm going to be investing every single year. $6,000 into my Roth IRA, the other $3,600 into my 401k with my company, okay? Now, this means if I did this, okay, guys, let's say if I invested this money for 30 years and I made 12%, which by the way are my projections for my portfolio and what I invest into, well, here's the answer to how much money I would actually have. So again, if I started investing right now today with $0 and I invest every single year $9,600 and I gave this money 30 years to grow at 12%, which is by the way the average in a sense with dividends included and everything else, well, click calculate. That says, hey, Tommy, you're going to have $2.5 million. How much do I need? Well, I only need $720,000, meaning I have a lot more than I actually need in the next 30 years. However, let's say the market doesn't do that well. Instead of 12%, I get 8%, which by the way is 33% less. Again, another margin of safety in case my plan does not go according to plan. So how much money is that? Well, Tommy, you're only going to have 1.1 million. I still have a lot more money than I actually need. To me, that's awesome. Now, let's say the market does terrible, very bad. And let's say I only make 6% on the market, which by the way is half, which by the way is very unlikely. And you know, over 30 years, that's not really going to happen, okay? If we use history as our guide. Well, click calculate. The answer is $804,000. What does this mean? It means that no matter what, if I get the average, wow, great surprise. If I get less than that, wow, I still have enough. If I get even less than that, wow, I still am going to be good to go. Guys, one big thing that I think about a lot when it comes to my investment strategy is that I have not seen a war. I have not seen double inflation numbers. I have not seen a depression. And all these things have happened in the past, so all these things can happen in the future. So when I'm planning my financial plan for investing and what to do when the market crashes, I always say, just keep steady and keep investing the same exact way. It's not flashy, it's not perfect, but guess what? It's gonna get me the results I actually need. And on top of that, aside from investing 20%, I also have a paid off home. So what does that mean? My expenses are very low, and that's something everyone should work towards. And that's why I created my entire course. The link is down below. And if you want to buy it, the link is down below. And you also get a coupon. But the idea is financial freedom is the most important thing. And I don't care about first class tickets. I don't care about gold chains. I don't care about foreign cars. I care about freedom. And to get to freedom, freedom is just repetitive and boring. But when you get there, you get there. And you get there in style. Because you have something that not many people can actually replicate or actually do. But guys, that's all I have for you. Hopefully this video helped you in some way. If it did, comment down below. And again, let me know exactly how much money do you need to have enough in your investment account. Comment down below. Let me know. And as always, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified. On top of that, also, if you want to DM me or talk to me one-on-one, I have a link to call me for free. The link is down below. Or if you want to DM me on Instagram, it's at TommyBryson. More content here. My face is here. And as always, long-term team out.